I think we are so fortunate to have 8 panelists today to discuss women's issues from different culture and different perspectives. And then I'm so happy our students can hear different opinions on this issue. And then we can hopefully, I'm hoping we can come up with insightful, I know we can't solve this, but we can come up with constructive suggestions to this women's issue. Okay, because maybe I'll use this one.
You can take this off. Or maybe you can.
My secretary. Since this issue is so big, we can't talk about
Yep, that's not gonna work.
everything. I don't
Folks,
need a
move behind the podium. It's the speaker above you. Yeah.
もしもし because this issue is so big to discuss within limited time, so I suggested, proposed 3 focal points during this session. First one is issues Japanese women and women in other cultures are facing in current society. So we will be mainly talking about marital status and self-identity or identity crisis of Japanese women or maybe women in other cultures. And then second focal point is, do they want to marry or can't they marry even though they want to marry? So we'll be looking at the increasing marriage rate in Japan or across the culture, and then we want to invite men's point of view on marriage, because women need men to get married, so we want to hear the opinion from the other side. And then thirdly, what are the root causes of these trends, like increasing rate of unmarried people, and then the lowering birth rate, particularly in Japan. So we have 3 focal points. And then, where did I put my paper? Thank you. Yeah. Did it come up like that? Let's do it again. I like this one. Okay. Christmas cake. Have you heard about these words, Christmas cake? What is a Christmas cake?
Christmas cake always sell complete before 25. So after 25 years old is leftover.
Yeah, Christmas cake, it was a popular term when I was young people, like a college age. If you pass 25th, December 25th, Christmas cake is useless, right? So women who pass 25 years old are called Christmas cake. And then, the other terms are obvious. Urenokori means didn't get sold, so you are leftovers. If you didn't get married by a certain age, we are called urenokori. We are labeled as urenokori. And the arakho is a newer term, around 40. So women nearing 40 years old are called, labeled arakho. And then another one, past expiration date. Isn't that horrible? But those terms are still used in modern Japanese society. That's the problem. So we'll be discussing about this and then how women feel about this. When they are labeled like these terms, how do they feel? And then next one. So Aoi-san produced this documentary film called Arafo's Challenge. 竹下あ、待ってめぐみさん is, I don't want to say her age, but nearing 40 years old. Sorry. And then she is searching answers to her identity crisis about being unmarried or being single. So Aoi-san made this documentary film, the Arafo's Challenge. And then maybe after the film and discussion, we can give her good advice. So okay, now let's watch movie, and then after that I will introduce all the panelists. 語学学校オーナーの娘さん、聖羅さんが迎えに来てくれた。
You of Los Angeles.
ファミリアシーン。
どこまでも続く広い空のフリーで、私は言ってきてたけど、もうその時点で私はもう。
I should be grateful to him because the happier I got, the more miserable he was.
You watched this movie, and then I'm sure you understood how Japanese women nearing 30s and 40s feel. And then the topic of this Arafo's Challenge documentary film, why are Japanese women having this type of hard time? And then are they really failure just because they can't get married or they don't have kids? Are they incomplete? And then another thing we want to talk about is what is the impact of increasing the number of singles to Japanese society. Okay, before I start asking questions, I don't need this. Allow me to introduce honorable panelists. They came all the way to this panel discussion, even though
It's you. I don't think it's you.
in spite of busy schedule. So, Professor Laura Rostov, would you please introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Laura Lusto. I'm originally from Argentina. I moved here in 1986 in my early 20s. I was married twice, and I'm divorced now. I have a 17-year-old daughter, so you still have plenty of time. I came here by myself with very little money. I went all the way up by myself. I got a master's degree. Well, I had a degree from Argentina in second language acquisition. And then when I was here, I went back to school and I got a PhD in Hispanic languages and literatures. And this is what I teach here at Chapman. I don't know how much more do you want me to say?
Well, you have time to, talk about yourself later during the question time. I'm sure you have a lot.
I know there are many of us, so I don't want to say a lot about that.
Well, thank you, Laura. Professor Chow, go ahead.
So do I have to say about the same?
Similar.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to.
I will do Cook Sensei. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Aiting Chow. In Chinese is Zhao Yiting. I am the professor in Chinese program, and I moved here around 5 years ago, and I received all my education in Taiwan Normal University, and it's about teaching Chinese as a second and foreign language. I recently got engaged.
Yeah.
What else should I say? I think that's about it.
Okay, yeah, I will ask
talk
you
about more
lots of questions later. So. Okay, Professor Hodge.
My name's Polly Hodge, and I'm looking at the structure here. I was born in Anaheim. I'm a California girl, true and true. My family is from Indiana. I got my degrees at Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, and I've studied abroad many places in the Hispanic world. I teach Spanish here. I am one of 7 children, and I am the only one not married or never married in my family. Let's start there.
Okay, thank you. Professor Maeda.
Hi. My name is Eriko Maeda, and I'm a professor in the School of Communication. And I'm here in Chapman. This is my 4th year. And before that, I went back to Japan for 2 years. Before that, I was in Cal State Long Beach teaching there. So I got my undergrad in Japan, and then master's and PhD here. I'm never married. Always single. I don't never married. Always single. Yes.
And then also your dissertation.
Oh, that's right. My dissertation is actually exploring the identity of always single women, Japanese always single women.
So we can get some insights from her later. Okay, じゃあめぐみさんどうぞ。
Hi. I prepared. Hello, I'm Megumi Matsushita. I would like to thank you for giving me the chance to be with you today. It's a great pleasure. I just arrived here last Monday, just 1 week. So the day after tomorrow, I will go back to Japan. I am an actress in Japan. I graduated from Aoyama Gakuin Women's Junior College. My major was English literature. I was born in Tokyo. My parents were so busy when I was a child because my father was a businessman and my mother was an actress. Most of the time, my grandmother looked after me. Over time, I became interested to become an actress, just like my mother. So when I was 10 years old, I did many auditions and finally started my journey as an actress. When I was 18, my parents got divorced. That turned my world upside down and broke my spirit. And that made me pessimistic about marriage at that time. In my late 20s, my parents were afraid that I would get old alone. They arranged a marriage meeting with some men. I was introduced to a lawyer, a doctor, and an engineer. Unfortunately, they were not my type. So in my 30s, most of my friends got married and eventually have children. That makes me think about my future and married life. I realized that I want to have a family of my own too. I really want to have my own children in addition to the pressure I got from my mom. I need to accept the fact that I am getting older, not younger. That's when I began to feel the rush. So I spoke out and talked about marriage to my boyfriend at the time. To my surprise, he wasn't ready yet due to financial problem. I had the same rejection from other men with almost the same reasons. That was so frustrating. Then I met Yukari Aoi. She's the producer of this film. We made this film for women who can't get married or who are suffering under the pressure from their parents or society. So, yeah, I can talk more
discussion. Thank you for listening. That's all about me.
My name is Yukari Aoi Johnston. I'm the producer of this movie and owner of ESL school, AOI, College of Languages. I decided to make this movie because I have a lot of female Japanese students who are in their 30s. When I ask them why they came to America, they always say they wanted to change their life. And they are not very happy and comfortable in Japan. In Japan, if a woman isn't married, society frowns on them. This is especially true in the workplace. Companies expect young women to work for them and for older women to get married and quit working. So after they turn 30, many Japanese women are not comfortable working. It can also be difficult to find a husband because these days many young men are putting off getting married. So I decided to make this film while thinking about those issues. So when I chose Megumi to play this main character, I thought she was the perfect person for it. I wanted to make a movie about how this woman could change her life. So now I'd like to share a little of my background with you. In the 80s, women in Japan were called Christmas cake, like she explained before. They were called this because the joke was that after a woman was 24 years old, nobody wanted her. She was like leftover. So I was born in countryside in Japan. In my 20s, I took a job as movie magazine editor in Tokyo. But when I turned 24, my father was upset that I hadn't married. So my parents urged me to return home so that I could get married. I had to move on my 24th birthday, January 1st, from Tokyo back to my parents' house. It was a major life change. When I arrived, I had a meeting with potential husband in January, and then we are married in May. So we moved fast. But it's a hard arranged marriage. So after we married, I started to feel regret because I was not in love with him, and so our life together was boring. After like about 3 years, we got divorced. Also, I came to America to study English, and I met my next husband. And we are married. We married and have a baby when I was 29. We make life choices based on our age and how we think society expects us to behave at that age. My mother always told me that woman has to get married before she's 24. And she has to have a baby before she's 30. So there wasn't choice. So Japanese society is different from America. Japan still has traditional culture in many ways. Society is homogeneous and people expect people to live to the same standard. So I think it's hard for women to be independent in Japan. But if we have an opportunity to discuss this issue, I think it can help women in Japan and all over the world.
Thank you. She has a lot to say. But she has more. Okay, Roxanne, thank you.
My name is Roxane Teboul. I am not an Arafo, I'm more like an Arafi and above. I am the proud mother of 2 daughters. One is married, one is a teenager. I have the double nationality, French and American. Here I direct the lower division French program at Chapman. I received my master's degree in French literature and Romance philology from the University of Columbia in New York. I also received my master's degree in law, international public and private law from the university in Nice. And I come from a family of 4 daughters. We have 4 sisters. 3 of my sisters are married, me included, 2 from my sister and me. And they have children, and we all have children, and one of my sisters is single and married to her job.
Thank you very much, all the panelists. And I have one more person coming pretty soon, Ms. Sharon Greenspan, who was in that movie. She got stuck in the traffic.
Of
But
course.
she is coming. Okay, now can I start the questions? First question to all of the panelists. Your thoughts on the topics in the film. So you can raise your hand or I can point you, but I prefer you raise your hand, please. What did you think about this film? Just your gut feeling. Anybody?
Well, Polly.
I would say I thought it was very interesting because the topic, and I liked the personal interviews of the people, a whole range of different types of people who had been married, divorced so many times, and what have you. I came close to marriage twice, and then I never entered into it for long story reasons. But I think that one of the things that I wrote down as an important point, that when you interviewed I believe she was the Japanese woman in the high rise. What was her name? Takayo. She had said, your reflections afterwards said something to the point of she takes hardship and turns it into positive energy. That was one of the reflections that I believe the protagonist had afterwards. And I thought that was a very important point from the whole movie in general, how everybody here has a life woven into marriage or not marriage or close to it or not. And at some point you have to take that hardship, whatever your story is, and turn it into something positive. And I think that was an interesting and important point for me in the movie. So I congratulate you on a really interesting movie.
Thank you. No one makes you happy ってこと？
Be positive.
Be positive. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think so too.
And also you can see the profound differences in cultures and how people perceive marriage and divorce and children. And following Polly's idea, I thought also what's her name, the Japanese woman?
Takayo?
The one with the house and
Yeah,
the
Takayo.
beautiful
Takayo.
Takayo said something that would be my advice, and that is probably my philosophy of life now, that no one will make you happy. And you have to search yourself for happiness.
By myself.
Once you are happy yourself, then it will be easier for me. I think that's what I'm convinced now. Unfortunately, it's a little late in my life, but I think it's never late in the end. But no man will make you happy.
Wow.
You have to.
Ladies, we are not supposed to give advice yet.
But I have to leave at 4:30. So I wanted to make sure that everybody what my advice is.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants
It's out of control already.
movie? Anybody who wants to speak about movie itself?
Okay.
I think it reflects really like a general thoughts and feelings of Japanese like single women in the 30s, 40s really well. It's like some of my students who are here went to Japan this summer, and they noticed how orderly we are. Like every morning, everybody goes to work, going to school. 5, everybody's going home at night. It's so structured, and people do, people know they need to follow that way, and life is saying like they need to follow, and that structure is, it's woven in the
We
society.
should appreciate or value the uniformity in our
Yes,
society.
conformity is very strong. So many women feel like, and not only probably not maybe for just herself, but I'm not leaving grandchildren, Like it's not just you being unhappy, but you feel other people making unhappy because you are not succeeding in the life course of Japan. So I think it really reflects Japanese women and society in general. Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be a long discussion because this is the first question and then they have a lot. Okay, let's move on to the second question. Have you ever been offended by others' comments regarding your marital status or age? Anybody in the panelists, have you ever offended by some people told you, like, oh, you are old maid. You are left over.
Recently, I joined a matchmaking party where many foreigners attend. So not only Japanese, but the few Asian men at the first meeting. Hi, I'm Megumi, and how old are you? He asked me, so that was so disappointing for me. How old are you? Then he didn't choose me, of course. So that was, and I go home alone and desperate. But not only me, other women, maybe around 40, they look so tired and exhausted. So that was yes, I realized Asian men like younger women, and I think most mothers want their sons to get married to younger women.
Okay, I'm going to ask those boys later. In their perspective about marrying
younger women.
Young women. In your country,
I want to react to the question you asked before, but I'm going to I wanted to react to it because in France we have the total opposite of what you have in Japan. French men and women do not want to get married. They marry very late. Only 16% of women under 25 are married, and 7% for men. And there is a tendency more and more the age of marriage is going towards, I think the number is 35 for women and 38 for men, 38-year-old. So it's interesting for me to see that stress that is put on women to find something wrong with being single. And I wanted also to comment on one thing that I heard on the movie. I want to reassure you. When I came to this country, they said there were no social class. In America, they are social class. In America. That's my reaction.
How about Laura, in Latin America and next to China?
Yeah, it's Latin America. Interesting what Roxanne said. I did a little bit of research since I haven't lived in Argentina for 33 years. Of course, I talk to my friends and I know what's going on. But there was recently a program on NPR about Argentinian women. Unwed mothers are now the norm in Argentina. And Latin America is now the region with the highest percentage of children born out of wedlock. And Argentine women are okay with that. That's how the program starts. It's a radio program. And it talks about women being more financially independent. So they have the choice to have children. Some of them live with their partners, some of them live by themselves. There's a lot more union among the women. They live together, they help one another, they go on vacations together with their children and themselves. Some of them have partners but not necessarily married, so they choose not to get married. That's what I read and what I listened to in the program. And another problem was getting married was easy, but getting divorced was very difficult and very expensive. So some women decided not to get married because of that. So I don't want to pause, but that's.
And then I hope students are taking notes. They are giving you guys a good perspective from different culture and society. Okay, Tina, please.
Yeah, so for me, I'll say two countries. I'll say Taiwan and China. So Taiwan is a little bit different from China. China's situation is closer to Japan. So Taiwan is more, the marriage rate now is 0.6. It's really, really low. So we also have the birth problem, like the old, like aging society, that problem is the same as Japan. However, China, so right now this is also happening to our topic in Chinese 343, so we're also talking about leftover women, the same term. So it's women that is not getting married after 25, they're considered as leftover women. So what is happening right now in Shanghai, there's a park that is so popular, it becomes a matchmaking park. All the parents will post their kids' CV and photo, and they will post it there, and they will be there, and they'll just post it around the park, so everybody will see your kid, how old is your kid, what they study, what is their job, do they have house, do they have car, do they have how much saving, like all that will be listed, and a picture next to it, and if these two parents think, oh, our kids match, then they will talk to each other, or maybe, so, but then, that is also the pressure. So I actually show my student one of the documentary that a photographer that she made herself. She is 37 and she made a documentary. She went there herself. Usually it's the parents, but herself actually went there and she's there. So a lot of the parents actually walk over and talk to her and ask her, first question, how old are you? And then after she told them her age, they left. And then some of them will say, you're courageous. Like, it's basically saying you shouldn't be at the market right now. Yes, so it's the same situation right now. It's happening in China. That is something is really happening right now. So.
You think that's a long time ago, but
it's
still
happening. Yes, it's modern.
That's so interesting because there's the contrast with this country where there's the cougar syndrome, right? You're an old woman. I was shocked one day. I'm not a cougar, but I guess I'm that age because I was walking somewhere to a party by myself, and a young guy comes up to me and says, do you hang out with older guys, with younger men? I'm like, are you joking? I'm thinking to myself, are you joking? What is this? And I looked at him and I said, oh yeah, I do, but I'm busy right now. I didn't know what to say. But that's the big contrast. You're older and now you're suddenly desirable by somebody 20 years younger. I can only speak from experience on that one. It's strange, very strange day.
But so,
I guess. So
have you offended? Do you have experience of being offended in your country?
In my country or here?
In France.
In France, not so much, but I work, my case is a little different. I work in the same field as my husband, same place. And so it has happened to me very often that people will would use my husband's name or would ask me to give a message, to my husband, like I'm a secretary or something like that. So being married has some, consequences.
Okay, next question, and then I will give you the time to ask questions afterwards. Does your society discriminate against women based on age, looks, or marital status? I think you covered some of the part. And then because Tina talked about leftover woman in China, I want to show how it's like that video.
Is that the one I share with you?
Yeah, the leftover woman in China. I thought, that's so telling. Yeah.
In China, if you're a woman in your late 20s and beyond and you're not married, you would be called a leftover woman. So what does this mean and why does this expression even exist? I'm here in Shanghai to find out what the local Chinese think of this social phenomenon. Let's find out. How old should your partner be, roughly, when you get married?
27、8吧，因为正常来说，27、8是生孩子最好的年龄，
或者是在30岁以前吧，对，尽量不要超过30岁，我觉得是可以的。
28左右结婚比较合适一点。对待婚姻上面的话，应该有自己的想法了，不单单是只是觉得我听我的父母的安排，或者听朋友的这样子一个建议。
If you pass 30, what happens?
那确实没有结婚，就很着急啊，父母也很着急，然后但也没有办法，那就自己旅游啊，玩一下之类的。
会有一点，对，会，因为可能父母就会特别的去催你，然后觉得你怎么还不谈恋爱呀，然后还不去相亲呀，然后他们会特别的急躁，然后就会给你带来一些压力吧。
如果按100%来作为影响的话，我大概觉得有80%，对80%的一个影响力。
What does the expression leftover woman mean?
剩女的话，可能就是女生那没有人要的女孩子。
在中国，剩女的标签首先就是年龄。如果说你超过了一定的年龄，他们你又没有结婚，他就觉得你是剩女。
What kind of a perception does the society have towards a leftover woman?
觉得她们年纪都太大，然后一般剩女都是比较事业上会比较很好的一些女性。
剩女的话，可能就是她们自己不想找男朋友，或者就是她们可能个性太强烈了，然后那些男孩子都不太喜欢她们。
他们条件是非常不错的，就是以他们的条件不应该找不到男朋友或者是未来的一半，只不过是因为还没有找到适合他们的。
Why do you think it's okay for men to get married like later, opposed to females getting, looked down upon if they're getting married late?
可能有这样的一个观念，因为男的话可能是以事业可能会放得会重一点，所以说稍微迟一点可能问题不是非常大。那女生的话可能就是觉得年纪大了，如果还没嫁出去的话，可能是会怕可能就是容易衰老。
女孩子能自给自足就很厉害啊！你为什么要这样子对一个女生？男生40多岁你不结婚，
还算是王老五了。
对啊，女生你就说人家什么齐天大圣这种，根本就还是对女性的一种歧视嘛。
对，就是我们听说上海有一个怎么说有一个很出名的地方，就是父母会拿着小纸板啊，
人民广场。
That's the part.
Yeah, that's the phrase. So you can see what the women think about themselves, and then what the men think about women not married or getting close to 30s and 40 years old. Very similar in Japan too. Okay, next question. Have you ever felt the pressure, panelists? Have you ever felt the pressure to get married at a certain age? And then who or what gives you that kind of pressure, you think? Parents or traditions or opinion of opposite sex? So that's my question. You have 2 questions. So have you ever felt the pressure to get married? Second, who do you think give you that kind of pressure?
Yeah, I already told you, but like my mother thought I have to get married before 24 and have a child before 30. That was like no choice. Women must do it, like at that age, like 80s. But now I think it's 10 years older, like have to get married before 35 and then have to have children before 40. So it's a different generation, but Like usually mother give daughter a lot of pressure.
Not only parents, just neighbors ask me, "Oh, Megumi-chan, how old are you now? Oh, why don't you get married?" just a greeting.
Busybody neighbors. Any other comment on this? Have you ever felt the pressure? Or you never felt the pressure to get married?
I never felt the pressure. My friends were getting married, but just for the sake of getting married.
So you never compare yourself with the others?
Shouldn't.
No, because a lot of other friends were not married. So at least when I was living in Argentina, some of my friends were married, as some of them were not, and they are not married today, so they are single. In the past, we had words to look down on women who were not married. I remember when solterona, for the ones that's, Spanish. Es una solterona. That means
an old maid, an old maid.
Yeah. But not today, and also all women get divorced a lot more than in the past. My parents were married for 61 years and they didn't get divorced, but younger people get divorced a lot. So
I didn't have to be pressured, but the culture we live in do create this pressure. I mean, we all have played Old Maids, a card game, when we were kids.
Yes, the card game was made, of course, yeah.
That, you didn't want to have that card. So there is a...
So in America, you are a California girl, so...
Yes, I would say I only felt the pressure in the sense that some of my best friends that in their 20s were getting married. And I had a boyfriend at the time and we were going to get married and all that, but that didn't work out. But my parents never pressured. I didn't feel the pressure with my family because they knew I just wanted to go to college and be a teacher, and that's what I had said. And I just thought marriage would come along with that at some point. But they also would sit you down, and I come from 7 children, and they said, we don't have the money to send you to college, but you can live at home. And so I learned myself how to make my own money and to kind of be an independent woman, thinking all along, well, sometime in some nebulous future I will get married, but I haven't yet. But then people say, well, why aren't you married? I said, I'm not dead yet, right? I'm not dead. If I get a good, but I always wanted to be in a good marriage, not a marriage. And so that, to me, was always the main point.
I think we have this comparison with neighbors or friends in Japan. That's actually we are giving own pressure on ourselves by comparing. Well, she married to a doctor, and they have children. I'm living in a good big house, and that kind of comparison. But I heard in America too, now Facebook are causing a lot of suicide because they get depressed because by looking at the Facebook, the people brag about their life, personal life, and then they compare. Oh, she just got married, how lucky and stuff. Any other comments?
I want to piggyback on what you just said. You mentioned about the pressure for career. In my country, there is not a lot of pressure to get married, but there is pressure for women to have a career and to make money. And coming here, money doesn't cost a lot for education in France. So coming here, one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, considering the amount of debt that students create on themselves by going to good university and things like that, we have to wonder that when women will be childbearing at some point, they will be out of the market. They still have to pay all this debt, and that's something that really creates a lot of pressure. on young women to do two things: have a career and have also, you know, a family and children and all of that. So that's something that worries me here.
So media.
Media.
I think that's a good point. It's in Japan, one of the things, like Asian culture or Japan especially, we say it's a very masculine culture. Like men work and women stay home. Very the role is defined very clearly. So women, if they don't get married, different term, parasite single.
Yeah, there are lots of
right?
parasite
So young women who stay at home and don't get married are called in the 90s and 2000, around that time called parasite single because they just live with parents and eating up parents' money and don't get married. So, right? But the fact is, women cannot really progress at work. Like it's so male dominant. Women can't succeed. So like if women decide I don't need to get married, still you're gonna be poor, right? Unless you are super have a super talent. So I interviewed a lot of single women who are in the service when I was writing dissertation, and they are scrambling, right? And now Japan's in recession for 20 years. Men are, a lot of middle class are scrambling. So, and they are working so hard, continuously working so hard. And the men, aged between 35 and 45 in Japan, highest cause of death is suicide. Okay? So it's really, that tradition and the societal pressure and the economical hardship, I think it's all tangled. And at the end, the people are not getting married because we are not rich enough. And people who are getting married, more than half of them are getting married because they get pregnant. So that push needed, you know, they can't make a decision, especially divorce is seen so, you know, negative, and single parents, kids grew up in a single parents seeing so negative, and single mothers with kids are so poor, right? So I think other countries, they have a choice to have wedlock, and it's okay. But in Japan, still, we don't have a choice if you really want to get married, you know. So that's a little bit of difference. Plus, registration, we didn't have social security until 5 years ago. We are just defined as a part of family, right? So we didn't have single identity. That was Japanese history. So we, you know, we carry family. That's traditionally that way. So that's why pressure is also pretty heavy because it's just not you creating your own life. It's more, right?
Before we go to dinner, let me introduce Ms. Sharon Greenspan. Thank you for coming, and because of traffic, it's okay, it's okay. Thank you.
You see me running through this campus like a maniac.
Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sharon Greenspan, and I was very honored to be a part of this project. I actually came upon it because Yukari knows my husband, and he has a lot of connections with Japan. And they were actually interviewing him for this. And then he said, wait, what is this about? and then he said, you really need to be talking to my wife, not me. So that's kind of how I came to be a part of this. So thank you for accepting me as late as I am. I apologize.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, so I wanted to add on the career women part. So because I mentioned that Taiwan's marriage rate right now is really low, and there's a social problem right now actually is a lot of men cannot get married because a lot of career women that they are more successful financially, more independent, more capable. So they are not able to find someone that they think will match them, I think. So then this is really causing the problem. So a lot of the guys had to turn to, like say, we have a lot of Vietnamese brides in Taiwan right now, and we have a lot of these new generation kids. We call them the new immigrants, and they are like a local Taiwanese guy and a Vietnamese lady, and they got married and they have these kids. And this is a lot of the kids are in Taiwan right now. It's Vietnamese and Taiwanese, or Chinese and Taiwanese. And this is because a lot of Korean women are in Taiwan now, and they don't want to get married with a guy that they think that may not match what they are at. Yes.
And we have a hard time in Japan that once we married and became pregnant, we leave the company. We have that kind of pressure. Why don't you stay home? And then once we leave the company, when we want to go back to work again, but we can't receive the same status and the same pay.
Right.
That's why it's a different type of harassment, kind of harassment. Yeah, it's called maternity harassment, matahara.
Can I say a little something about that too? I always thought that I would, I went on maternity leave after I had my first kid. I was gone for 3 months, and I went right back to my job. And no one was trying to push me out. In fact, they tried to bring me back early. I couldn't stand being at work. Like, that was the other problem, was once I had, and then, I worked full time until my oldest was about 5. And every day I felt like horrible. Like, my career wasn't satisfying enough to me to make it worthwhile to have somebody else with them all day long, and my hours were so long. Like, if I had better hours, I chose a career that wasn't great. In terms of hours, I'm a TV producer, so you get to work late, like around 10, but you don't come home till 8 or 9 o'clock at night every night, and if you have little kids, they're in bed by then, and you've missed their whole day. And I'm jealous of people who, like, early in their life, they choose a career where they can balance career, because I didn't want to step out of my career, but I also didn't want to miss my kids' childhood. So it's a difficult choice to make, because now I feel what you're describing, when I go back, will I still be relevant? And I don't know, but I probably will go back to a different career, because something that has more flexible hours. I do think that the careers of the 21st century are more flexible, though. I think that's something, but I would say to all young people, not just women, to look into, what are your hours going to be like? Because dads too. My husband is miserable because he's gone all day and he never gets to see the kids. And so it's like, what career are you going to choose? And if you want a family, you might want to look into that. Like, my 9-year-old is on a TV show now, and I'm so, the actors, the adult actors who are on the show, one of them's about to have a baby, or she wants to have a baby, and I keep saying, you have the best job for having a baby, because they don't work that much. Like, and you can have like a babysitter, back in your dressing room or in your trailer that, but you can have your baby there with you, you can have your kids around, you can have long periods of hiatus where you're off, and so, I don't know, I've been thinking about that a lot so much, because I made the choice to leave my career for a while, and I'm pursuing other things that don't make money, but it weighs on me every day. Will I be able to go back and make money? Do I want to go back to that career where I never see anybody for, hours at a time? So anyway, sorry to digress.
Okay,
but
so you are a full-time mom now.
I am. Although now that my son is acting, I'm like a full-time child actor handler. So that's a whole different panel discussion that we should have some other time.
I sometimes feel it's not fair. Women have to make those choices. Men can just go from the boy to young man, and then get married, husband, and then the father. They have straight line. But women have to make a choice, and we have to make a decision which one is more important. For example, when we are discussing in the classroom, your boyfriend is in Tokyo working, doing great. You are in Osaka, and your career is going well. but he wants you to quit your work and then go to Tokyo. What would you do? Majority of female students in my class said, forget it. Keep the job here. Let him move to Osaka. It's like, wow, in my generation, we didn't think that way. But the values and the decision are changing. But of course, decision and the choice have a consequence too. Because you have to be responsible for your choice too.
Everything's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's all a trade-off because I had a career, a really great career. I mean, it didn't pull me after I had kids, but what many would consider a really great career. And I worked for a really long time to the point where I could have been in a position not to be able to have kids when I finally got married. So that's the other thing you choose between. It's like, I got lucky because I was able to have kids, but I had my first baby at 38 and my last one at 44. So I was able to do that, but it's not the norm. So that was the other thing. It's like pursuing the career as long as I did, I was able to do that. But then you trade off this thing of being a young parent. So like I'm this ancient person at the preschool, everyone's like, oh my God, you're so old. And I feel like I'm like a generation older than some of the moms at the preschool. Like my kid has just turned 3. And that's kind of, I'm 47. Some people are 27. Like it's really, but I mean, I'm okay with that because if I had kids in my 20s, my kids would be, I'd be saving up for all their therapy now. I was not, I would not have been a good mom at that age.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
I'd like to add something on that. What you're describing is what I think every childbearing woman has to deal with if she wants to work. But I'd like to say something because we're in front of students. My warning to them is that there's a lot of hidden things. For example, you decide to get out of the workplace because you want to be childbearing and raising maybe a year or two your child. The consequences are down the line also that you're not paying your retirement. So automatically you lose advantages, not only in climbing the ladder, but also in paying for your retirement financially, economically. You go back to work and you are lower.
Right, but if you make good financial decisions like I have a condo that's I'm renting out, and so that's appreciating. So I'm not putting into a.
But I'm saying there's a lot of things that you
No,
don't
you're
think
right.
of when
You're
you're
absolutely
young
right.
and you just want to have a child. And you
Right,
don't think about
because
it.
you don't have the 401k anymore, and yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Thank you,
Laura. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Have you felt the identity crisis based on these external expectations or pressure? Have you ever thought, who am I? What am I doing? Am I failure? Am I loser? Japanese women are forced to feel that way. If you are not married, if you don't have children, some word is a makeinu, is a loser dog, and then the who are married are called winning team. And if you haven't married or have children, you are losing side, and then you are called loser. So that's Japanese kind of reality. In your own countries, have you felt identity? Who am I? Crisis. Anybody?
Yes. I think that kind of pressure is on American women too. But there's the added pressure. Yes, 100%.
Really?
100%. Because I remember when I was dating in my 30s, it was already like, you're getting the pressure from your parents and people that you go, on dates with. They're thinking, oh my God, she's gonna want to rush me into marriage, because. Yeah, I mean, yes, I felt like there was that kind of pressure, but then when you do have now that I'm not working, it's a different identity problem, and now people look at me a different way, I think. I think they just look at me as a mom, and I'm like, what happened to that person who had all these, you know, my own stuff going on, and my own interests, and my own hobbies, and then you sort of just become a mom.
They tell you that you are just a mom or just a wife.
You know, I think part of it is, I mean, I bet if you asked somebody else, they'd say, no, people who know you think you're multi-layered and amazing and whatever, but like, you internalize that, because then you're like, I left my job, what a loser I am. And then, like, for example, this, I mean, it's really hammered home at this, you know, job I have now where I don't get paid, but I have to bring my son to his work. I'm just his mom. I'm the mom that has to be there. And there's even a wardrobe person who just goes, hey mom, like doesn't learn my name. And I keep telling her my name and she keeps calling me mom. It pisses me off, it's rude, you know? But it's just it's like a manifestation of that, what I'm describing. It's like this thing of, oh my God, like what happened to all my creativity? What happened to all my interests? They're just all that's focused into this kid raising, which I'm enjoying. But you do have that conversation with yourself, like, is that gonna come back? Or is it gone for good?
Anybody? I felt, if I may say, because I'm a facilitator, I shouldn't be speaking too much, but I felt a similar way because my friends from my college proceeded or advanced to the PhD, and then I didn't. I stopped at master's degree, and then I got married, and then whenever I see or work in a college environment, I always envied ladies who have a PhD. I wanna put my name Etsuka Cook PhD. I envied that, somehow that title. And then I was happy to give up on pursuing my academic career because I got married and I had children. I quit my work for 5 years and then I stayed home till both of them went to preschool. So I don't regret that. But occasionally, sometimes when I see somebody very successful ladies, successful professors who is going to all the conferences in the world, I can, that kind of times that, I wish I can attend that workshop in Australia or London for my study. But occasionally that comes up to me, I just have to say, no, you made a decision. And then be happy about it. And
that's why you have to stay off Facebook.
Yeah. No, but in this working environment, there are many professors with successful professors with a PhD, right? I feel like I'm just, you tend to think I'm just. Yeah, but I have to fight that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole grass is always greener on the other side is a point here. But I, as far as identity goes, I've always felt I was a teacher and my whole life, but I always thought I would have a family, and I haven't at this point. But the people I admire most are the women. Like I said, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. My 3 sisters stayed home to raise their children. That was part of their identity, and I admire them, and that they're very, very intelligent women. And I think it's too bad that women who really just want to raise a family, who dedicate themselves to that, have this stigma somehow that that's not a noble enough thing to do in life. And I totally have the greatest respect for the women who do that. And I just want to say that if you have to do some soul searching, I've always felt like I was a teacher. My students to me are my children now. I mean, they always have been. I've been a teacher since 1980, high school, junior high, you name it. And that's just who I felt I was. That's my identity, and I don't know that I'll ever feel too different than that. But I think that it has to be respectful to women who take time off. I raised my little brother practically. I was 10 when my little brother was born. I'm like, are you joking? Who would want to have a kid? I was going crazy. I felt like I had that kid. But every woman has to make that choice and do some soul searching. I never wanted to have a child and leave him with the babysitter like I was left with my babysitter when I was 5. I never wanted to do that. So I thought, how am I going to do my career and do that? You're not. So you do have to make choices. And it's not easy. They're not easy. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Choices are not easy for women.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my case, marriage is not goal, and then many people get divorced. And I became single mom, and I have to take care of 2 kids, and I have to work hard in foreign country here. So, and my daughter is there. Now she grew up. So sometimes there's no choice, and I have to work hard, and then have to ask baby. I know that's why I had a live-in nanny, like a Mexican nanny. So she like took care of her kids. But I wanted to be home, but sometimes no choice and have to work hard.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, imagine my mother with 7 children.
Oh,
She had,
7 children.
she had to go to work, and we had to help out and take the kids. And so, my mom did have her cake and ate it too. I mean, how many women have 7 children, then had her own career and a marketing manager and everything else? I think she's one of the last super women, but in any case.
Anybody identity crisis or like felt something wrong with me or comparison? No?
I always feel I am like incomplete because around 40, but I am not getting married yet. So
Speak down, you feel how they are.
Okay, we have 2 more questions before we go into the second round of second focal points. The question is, who do you think causes this type of expectation or pressure? So what is society? Who makes society? Who is making that standard of, like, you know, by certain age you have to get married? What do you think? You can, if you wanna ask questions or if you wanna answer to my questions, please go ahead too. What is society?
Economic inequality, the women don't get paid as much as men do. And it would just be a pressure on somebody to take away their income in order to service the baby and have a family. It's income inequality. If the women were paid the same as men, they would have a better job of answering the question, in my opinion, of why do I choose to be, a mother instead of. They can have both when they're young, probably better educated also. I should shut up.
Anybody?
I think under the big umbrella, it's still the society. However, I think family, parents, friends, under that is close to you is the one that causes the pressure the most.
So not the opposite sex, like for us. Men are not our arch enemy. Men are not, you don't think men are making that kind of type cast for us?
I personally don't think so. I think
don't
a
think
lot
so.
of the pressure and stress is caused by ourselves. It's just
But where do we
personal.
get it? How are we educated to
Yeah,
feel
so
this way?
So
I mean, it's
under the-
hard. It's passed down through families. I
Right,
agree.
so
But I do
under
think
the
it's
big
coming.
umbrella, I think still the society and then the family, because like when you ask about the pressure about getting married, that I've never received that, although I'm from a Chinese culture background, Taiwanese family, but I've never really received that, my own family. So, but then again, I think family, and it's like the pressure is really from the closer friend zone or closer relatives, and that they give you those pressure. From my humble opinion, yes.
I think it comes from society, from the culture, from the model we don't see on TV, on commercial. The fact that You mentioned your mom with 7 children. There has been a fight in France for women's work to be recognized very early on. Women who stay at home to get social security as if they were working and things like that. But we continue to see the fact that although there is more women in the world than men, only 24% of women in the world are CEO or CFO. We don't see a lot of women in parliament. France has created there is a ministry of equality where they make sure that there is parity in politics. There should be, right now they have in the political system 50-50. Or the fact that in a lot of elections, women are not represented. You see it at the presidential election, you see it everywhere. So I think it's the fact that we don't see ourselves in commercial as political animals, or having a voice, of being activists. That's what we don't see. I think if we saw more of that, we would have a more active change of society, change in society, but a more
French society does support working women, though.
Yes.
Right, they're really great with
much. Yeah, and that's another issue. I think things that people never discuss, that as a double nationality coming here and having my first baby here, I never hear discussion of the fact of the maternity leave, or how long do you stay in an hospital after a baby. For my first baby, I was in an hospital. After 24 hours, I had to leave my baby staying in an hospital. And I found that very harsh. Where in France, it was my sister had baby, she had 3 days in the hospital. And I'm thinking, this is one of the things that there is no fight, and there should be a fight on that. Women should not accept that. Women should realize that, there is many things like that we just take for granted, that it's just, it's 24 hours. You can have a baby in 6 hours and go away too.
Yeah. So you think that society doesn't have enough support for women to have?
But even in my own society, the image of women is not an image that is very pleasant. We don't see women represented as activists, as being empowering to their own children. The talk we give to our children is not always positive. So I think there is a lot to change.
Yes. I just want to add that in Taiwan, the women also have 3 to 5 days that can stay in the hospital after they give birth. And then there's also something in Chinese culture is after a woman gives birth, they have to stay at home for 1 month. That's called making the month. So they have to do nothing, stay at home, eat well, sleep well, and just take care of themselves for 1 month, not going out of the house though. And then they cannot take a shower.
Tina, it's not just women, it should also be men. Like in France, you have 18 weeks.
In Taiwan now, they also give guys maternity leave, but women especially, they have to stay at home for 1 month. It's good for the health, that's what they say.
I have a quick question about the maternity leave. You talked about the support, but how do you feel about women going back to the workplace after having a maternity leave? Are they able to go back to their jobs?
That really depends on the company too. So it's the pressure, I think, is still there, because they're still going to have newly grads from the school. So the pressure, I think that's global. Is that correct?
Well, do you feel that way in France?
Well, in France it's different because they have an obligation to put you back at the same level as you left. So that is an acquired thing.
Yeah, the company will have to put you back in your same position.
But
what about employees and coworkers? Do they feel like, oh, because you were gone for so long, we've been taking on all the work because you were gone? So do you feel like there's a pressure from coworkers?
No, you're replaced by a temporary worker most of the time, so that's not the case, I would say. I think the battle in France is somewhere else than really there.
Yeah, because I feel like it's different for America. Like when someone comes back from maternity leave, they kind of get discriminated against. They don't get their raises because they were gone for so long. That sort of thing. So that's why I was wondering. You talk about support, but then going back to the workplace, that balance isn't there in every culture.
Yeah, in Japan, those moms who go back to work right away are called oniyome, or ogre wife, or ogre mom. You know, in Japanese society, they have that thinking. If mom goes back to work, if they don't have to, you know, economically good, the husband is making money but still want to go back, they are called oniyome, ogre wife. That you know, that's kind of stigma against women. Yeah. And also, like we're going to be talking about this kind of social problems, how society should change to support women's choices, you know, whatever they choose. We're going to be doing that in the second round. But one more last question in this. Does your society give freedom to choose? Do you have a choice, you think? In France, how about in France?
Being married or
married or not married, having children, going back to work?
Well, as I mentioned, the French women and men do not want to get married, so you have a choice because since 1999 they created another kind of contract that is a solidarity civil contract where you have most of the advantage of being married without being married. You just have to prove that you live together for 2 years and you have a lot of the succession right and all of that, but you don't have as much tax, so that's why people don't want to get married. So they thought that it will increase with that, but in reality, right now there is as many marriage as there is past. So we have the lowest ever since 1945, the lowest level of marriage since 1945.
How about America? You feel you enjoy freedom of choosing?
Absolutely, because there's, like a lot of people say, psychologists, there's not in general an arranged marriage system in the American system of marriage. You choose. So the onus is on you. If you're in an unhappy marriage, you choose an appropriate partner for you. I think that's basically a responsibility of the individual, the male and the female. So the idea that there's no freedom to choose, there's plenty of freedom. You can choose to never marry, you can choose to marry, you can choose to divorce. It's not like there's laws that prevent it like there are in other countries.
How about you?
In Japan, we can choose, we have a choice, but if we choose marriage, we choose to work as a housewife as well, because in Japan, wives do 7 times as much housework as husband, and it is unusual to hire outside help in Japan. No nanny, no babysitter. Mother does do that. So then mother expected perfect mother, be perfect mother, and career also. So that's why 70% of women quit working after they have their first child and depend on their husband's salary. And men are still widely expected to be a breadwinners and support families, but economic problem, they can lack of good jobs. So they are not confident to get married. They escape from marriage.
Yeah, that her last comment will lead into the second session. Why men don't want to marry?
ドリフマイムだって絶対センセーショナルだと思うよ。ビデオ見せてほしい。
Begin the second focal points. Do they want to marry or can't they marry? That we talked about problems in the society. Are they supporting the choices women make enough or not? So let me show the statistics. I did a survey in my 3 classes, and then I asked, do you want to marry? And then if you want to marry, till what about what time or what age you want to marry? So this is a result from my 3 Japanese classes, total 43. Out of that, 90.7% want to marry. Okay, so that's a kind of interesting. You know, they are so young still, but they are thinking of marrying. Next, at what age would you want to marry? That shows by 30 years old is the highest. So 13 out of 39 who want to get married want to wait till 30. I think that tells they want to wait little longer compared to the 30 years ago. Okay, next. And then I asked also, do you want to have a kids? And then 33 out of 43, that's about 77% want to have a kids. Then, so how many do you want to have kids? How many kids do you want to have? At least 2. Some of them said like 4 or 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So those young people. This is like it's great for American society because they will be still multiplying. But let's see in Japan. How about in Japan? This is statistics in Japan. In 1982, 95% of male will eventually marry in the future. And then female, 94% eventually want to marry. But 2002 became a male, 87% plan to get married. And then the interesting thing is never want to marry increased from 2.3% to 5.4% in 2002. And then in 2002, female dropped from 94 to 88% plan to marry sometime in the future, and then never want to marry increased to 5%. This is the statistics also shows between the age 30 to 34 years old, the unmarried percentage became 34.6 compared to 1960, it was only 10%. So it's increasing the rate of unmarried or never married for female. And then male, it becomes even higher between 30 and 34 year old. In 2015, 47% are not married or never married. Okay, what do you think about this increasing number of single people? And then I was researching why they are not marrying. Then, these are the reasons why they can't get married, even though they want to. So, panelists and then the audience too, please look at this and then compare with your society. This is a Japanese case. These are answers from 25 to 34 year old. They want to get married, but they cannot get married because of those reasons. First one is 48% females said can't find the right partner, and then 15% said insufficient marriage fund, and then 7% can't get along well with the opposite sex. 5% no prospect in buying and renting a place to live. 5.9% parents and surroundings means like neighbors, not neighbors, relatives don't agree. And the other, so I noticed that Japanese people can't get married because of the economic reason, another economic reason. And then secondly, another, not alarming, but another big reason why Japanese people don't want to get married. Those numbers are increasing in Japan. Both female and male between 25 to 34 years old say don't feel need. What does this mean? They don't feel need? That's like a changing kind of value up toward marriage, because in Japanese society, everyone was supposed to marry. It's like everybody should be married. That's like a norm, but it's kind of changing. And then second reason is don't want to lose freedom, want to enjoy life, want to work and study. Still too young is not relevant when you become 35, but those are the reasons. And then I saw the interesting video, so if you can watch just a few minutes.
まあすごい感じになってますけど、なんか全然緊張せずに、なんかリラックスした感じでいきましょう。3人とも結婚にすごい詳しい方ということで、はい、ありがとうございます。はい、よろしくお願いします。で、結婚に関してなんですけども、日本のですね、結婚率がすごい下がってると最近。で、2015年生涯未婚率男性 23%、女性 14%。すごい上がってるんですよね。なんでこんなに結婚しづらくなってるのかなって、結婚する人が減ってるのかなっていうのが、そのあるアンケートによると、20代30代の女性の9割ぐらいが結婚したいと言ってるそうなんですよ。だから結婚したい女性は結構いるそうなんですよね。ただ結婚する人は減ってるということで、僕が思うのはちょっと理想とする男性がちょっと減っているのかなと思ってるんですけど、ちょっと装飾系というか魅力的じゃない男性が多いのかなと思ってるんですけど、どう思いますかね、その原因としては。
女性のキャリアというか、いろいろなチョイスが出てきた。なので昔の日本の感じだと、やっぱり女性はまず結婚、そんなに学歴も求めずにすぐに結婚して家庭を築けっていうのが風習というか、文化だったんですよね。でも今は女性のなんて言うんでしょう、キャリア志向の方が増えてきて、いろんなチョイスがある。そして20代の時にはやっぱりキャリアにすごくフォーカスしてると思うんですよね。そうするとやっぱり恋愛どころじゃなくて、あとはやはり女性がすごく欧米化というといいんですけれども、ウェスタナイズされてきているそういう仕事とか、いろんなことに関してもキャリア、何回も言ってますけどキャリアとかいろいろな選択が出てきた。でも男性の方はあまり変わってない。日本にかけてなんですけれども、その男性の意識はあまり変わってないんですよね。だからそこで一致しない、お互いのニーズが、あと年代的にも、そして女性が大学を卒業してキャリアをゲットして、そしてやっと自分のプライベートにフォーカスする。その頃には今度は女性がまあまあな年に行ってしまっているので、男性は日本人男性に限ってはそれに関して自分よりもキャリアがある方ですとか、年齢が上の方、ちょっとね、家族を築こうと思うときにちょっと年齢が上だと、そういったすごいキャリア志向の女性を持てない。反対に海外ではそのキャリアがすごく評価されるのに、日本では無駄に学歴と年収とキャリアが高いという感じになっちゃうんですよ。そして皆さんプライド
マイナスになっちゃうんですね。
プラスあとね
その一番婚活してほしい25、6、7、8から30前半ぐらいまでって多分仕事がすごく楽しくなって、婚活どころっては二の次になってしまってると思うんですよね。本当にアラフォー女性がよく言う、うちに来る女性が言うのが、気づいたらこの年齢になってましたっていう。気づいたらこの年齢だったっていうだけで、アラサーと言われる27、8から31人ぐらいまでで一番結婚相談所に入ってほしい、入会してほしい時期はもう本当に仕事が楽しくて楽しくて。
で、I want to ask male students here. So, what do you think about your girlfriend or future, spouse working hard and then going, climbing the career ladder? Do you feel intimidated to ask for a date or to get married to those, whatever, you don't say career woman?
I feel like I only feel intimidated if I was insecure about myself. So it's more a question of how secure you feel in yourself rather than how intimidated you are by the woman.
So you have any problem your girlfriend happened to be 3 or 4 years older than you, is it matter? Age is a matter for you?
I don't believe so, no.
How about you? Japanese man?
I'm a little irregular in Japan. I'm married. I was 24.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So.
I graduate university and enter country and just time. So my wife and I started work and married life. So I never think about those. But in Japan, many Japanese men ask women, how old are you? But women ask the men, how much do you get?
How much do you get?
That's right. What's your job, ne? What's your job?
How about you?
I don't think it matters. I don't think age matters or job matters, anything like that. I think that's not the issue. I think the issue is having just a list of options at your fingertips nowadays with like technology. I think that has a huge impact why people don't get married, because they have a list of endless options now.
It's true. Too many options.
Hope so.
Mr. Bob?
I just said I hope so.
Oh.
We all have better chances now of thinking independently, because if they have the education, they don't have to be as concerned about the money end of it.
Right.
And the women are smarter than guys a lot of the time. How about a smarter lady than you are? Is that all right?
Yeah, that'd be completely fine with me.
Do you think Japanese men have that kind of feeling toward smarter than themselves, or making more money than themselves? They feel intimidated?
なんかでも they want to depends on women's side. They want to get rich women with rich women, I think. So men are not responsible anymore.
Really?
More weak. They will be weak. Then I think so. Then だから women in Japan, big cities says they are getting tired of lack of available men. Men in this city are not very masculine and they don't want to get married. Then we call that 婚活疲れ in Japanese, meaning being tired of husband hunting. So they are tired, including me.
So you think the Japanese men are getting less and less masculine and then more responsible, so you can't find a right partner because of that.
So, but I like fleeters っていうのはthey have more time, cares for me, and means they don't have any temporary job. Not full-time job. Freelance, and yeah. That's my type. So I want to ask Sharon-san. Sharon-san said, you had a relationship with bad guys before, but you changed your priority in that film. So how do you change your priority to find your partner?
Oh, I have so much to say about this. I'm going to change gears for a second. Okay. Yeah, it was hard because you were saying you had some relationships with irresponsible
Not
men.
responsible, so they refused my proposal.
Right.
Many times.
Who would do that? I don't understand. But I had to, because my instinct was really for bad boys. That's who I liked, and those weren't the people who were going to settle down and have a family. And ultimately, I consider myself a liberated person and a feminist, and I agree that we should have choices. And that includes staying home with your kids or whatever. And so, but I knew in my heart that I wanted to get married and have kids. I don't think getting married is really a big deal. To be honest, that's what I was going to say about this, is like, is this a bad thing that it's going down? I think it's a good thing, because what it means is that, because marriage used to be an economic contract, right? And so now that women make, and women are pursuing careers and making, they don't have to get married just to have someone support them. They get married because they find someone they want to be with. And men too, that gives them also. So this thing of men being irresponsible, I think, everything's a trade-off. If women are going to be career women, which I think we can be and we should be if we want to, then you have to accept that some men are going to be like, okay with like, I don't want to be a career guy anymore. We have to accept that that's okay too and be willing to marry them. I mean, but anyway, I'm getting off topic. So yeah, I really felt like I was going after and dating and interested in men who didn't want any of those things, like musicians and stuff.
Same. Artists, ne?
Yes, artists.
Artists,
yes, exactly. And I went on a dating website. Back then, we didn't have smartphones, so there were no apps. But you could say on this website what you wanted. So you didn't have to weed through people who weren't interested in that. So I remember when I did meet who would eventually become my husband, we had a conversation like 3 weeks into the dating. And I just said, like, look, I'm not saying I want to marry you or you want to marry me, but are you someone who wants to eventually marry and have kids? Is that what you want? Because I'm not going to wait. I'm 32 at this point. I don't waste any more time if you don't. And I just kind of changed my, there's a lot of therapy involved. I mean, talking to this person about why do my instincts draw me to these people, and yet I know in my head wants this, not my heart, my something else wants this, and how do I, so like I had to like make a conscious effort to pursue people who wanted the same thing I wanted. Just I really had to be someone who was not afraid to ask. And luckily we have these apps now. I mean, I don't know what, the one I was on literally said, like, are you interested in something casual? Are you interested in, dating and seeing what happens? Are you interested in marriage and kids? Like, you could just put it there, and then you could just weed out all the people that didn't click marriage and kids. And that made it technology. I mean, you mentioned technology. It made my life, it got me to where I couldn't manage to go on my own. I thank technology for helping me out, for helping me with that problem, because I really wasn't handling it well on my own.
So you think you don't have to worry about decreasing the number of married couples?
I don't think it's a problem. Like, now this is anecdotal, but my best friend lives in Rome, and she said she and her husband are the only. Now they have 2 daughters, and they go to they know all these people from school and preschool and different activities that the kids do. And she said of all of the people they know, they're the only couple that's married. People still are having kids. I mean, I know the birth rate is down, and that's a problem. But the marriage rate, I don't see why. I mean, people, what those statistics say to me is that women in Japan, things are changing for them. When you say the biggest problem is not finding the right person, that means you don't feel like you have to. Right? You're willing to say, I want this one, I don't want this one. So to me that seems like a good thing. I don't see why. I mean, now if you really want to and you can't find the right person, that's difficult, but it just means that you have more choices. I mean, to me choices are great, and then everything's a trade-off. Choices also cause this problem of, oh my God, I could do anything. I could be a career woman. I could have babies. Sometimes you just want to be told what to do. So, we make progress in society, and it has side effects.
How about you, Maida Sensei?
I mean, something. I lost it. To add to what you said, if you know what you want and then you search and you read out, and if it works, that's great. And it seems like what if I'm getting old? What if I can't have a child? I mean, that happens, I think, to many people. And then I think that's still not the end of it, because you can just change the dream, you know, like some of you said, my students are my kids. Yeah. So you don't have to have this structured, I have to get married at this age, I think dream is already you picture, you have this picture perfect marriage and husband, then it's so difficult because you already are fixated with this idea. Like he doesn't fit this, So it makes you more kind of difficult to, Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think it's if your dream is so like Japan, there's a perfect family picture, and if you try to chase that, probably then you don't find it. You have to find your dream, which might be so different from,
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I feel.
The purpose of this discussion is, of course, to encourage Megumi-san. Also, we want to give the students. We have 60% of Chapman population female students. They have all the dreams. They want to pursue. But like I showed you the statistics, they want to get married and they want to have children. Female have tough choices. So we're gonna ask you panelists to give Megumi-san advice. And then if you have questions to panelists, now is the time to ask a question. But I want to just show you, Sharon-san, you said it's not so bad. The marriage rate is decreasing, but please look at the social issues Japanese society is having. Second one, first one is poverty, particularly like a single mom, they don't make enough money. And the second one is low birth rate and aging population. That cause huge economic downfall, corruption for Japanese society, because there's no young man who is working to support social welfare or pension system, and then supporting a huge portion of aging population. And then third one is population decline because Japanese couples are not marrying, and then in Japan, if they are not married, they can't have children. Unlike Sweden or some other countries, there is like a practice marriage, and then during that time, even though they haven't registered for marriage certificate, they still can have children, and they can still receive the same legal and or the social benefit like you have children. But the Japanese society is not that way. So if they are not marrying, they are not making babies. That means Japanese society is gonna Japanese race will extinct. But that's a Japanese problem. You can say that. But do you?
It's happening all over. It's happening all over the world.
Not only Japan.
But Japan is actually, I think, it's very prominent problems. Those things. So now I want, knowing all these and then their point of view. Any questions, students? That ask questions. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm just curious to all the panelists, what is marriage to you?
I don't know yet.
I will answer that. I've been married for 25 years, and marriage is a compromise to me. It's something that is fulfilling. It's a choice, and I can say that proudly. And it's something that is basically the yin and yang for me. Totally. And it's
結婚っていうのは何なの？あなたにとって何なのかって。
Well, even though I've never been married, my parents were married 42 years till death did them part. And I think marriage to me is something sacred. I would not have entered into what I could sense already was going to be a go-nowhere marriage. I was also attracted, like Sharon, to all the bad boy artists, druggies. So I do find it very sacred. I think it's an important institution that should be respected, and that so should the choice not to be married. As you said, I think that the values and ethics you get from what I got from my parents, who endured, you know, my father was a musician, also a military, my mother, they fought a lot, but they endured everything for their children. And so I always thought, I don't know if I could do that. And I know that it's also sacrifice. Marriage can be a lot of sacrifice, so.
Although I'm not married yet, but I've gone through some, I'm a Christian, so I've gone through some premarital sessions and some courses. So one of the first thing that I heard from other couples is like decision making. So you must have to be ready that you don't make your decision just by yourself without discussing with the other person. And then another thing is sacrifice, and of course is also if you're ready to fulfill each other's needs. If you're ready for that, yeah. So that's hard.
I mean, I think, you know, I'm talking a lot about it's a choice and you marry whoever you love and stuff like that, but I don't mean to contradict myself, but it's also a legal arrangement that provides a legal structure, you know, that kind of is just a traditional. Sometimes I look at it and I'm surprised that I ended up in a really traditional situation, because I'm not the very traditional kind of person, and yet maybe that's why. Maybe I felt I needed something that just kind of held us all together, you know. I mean, I used to say to my folks, I remember, you know, why did you get married? What do you need a piece of paper or whatever to tell? And when I actually did it, there's something about doing it in front of friends and family and making it legal that feels like really like, oh my God, we're really doing this. Prior to that, it really, you know, you can still always walk out, but it's a lot harder. So there is something about it that, you know, commits you to that situation, and hopefully you're in a good, positive situation with someone that you can compromise with and make decisions with. It's, you know, it's still a legal arrangement.
Roxanne, any comment?
No, but I think I agree with what you just said.
I was the same way, like Sharon. I decided not to get married because I saw my chauvinistic father, and then he comes home. He was a politician, so he always had meetings with drinking. And then he came home like at 2 or 3 a.m. But my mother always waited without sleeping. And then when he said, I want a night snack, she just make it. And I said, I would never, ever. Particularly with a Japanese man. And then I'm going to be a career woman. I'm going to be a journalist. And then I studied and I came to America. But I married, I fell in love with the person, and then I got married, and then I was so happy to make a decision of staying home for at least 5 years. I agree to Polly. I think marriage is a sacred thing, institute, so you can take that lightly, like, you know, oh, if you don't like this personality, we can divorce, because like you said, endurance, and you need a patience. That's what I feel now, because I totally changed from the youth to now.
But you had a different kind of marriage. You probably have a different kind of marriage than your parents. You made that choice because of your observations as a child, so your marriage is different. My marriage is so different than my parents' marriage. Even though it wasn't quite that structure, I mean that dynamic between them, but it was much more traditional than I think each generation, you know, you see what you don't want and what you want, and then you're like, I'm going to go into this, but I'm going to go into this the way I want to, and find someone who wants to do it that way.
But because I had a high expectation, because I didn't want a Japanese man, but I didn't really look for American guy. But since I was studying here, I met my husband.
Oh, okay. So you married an American.
Yes, I married to an American person. So I thought American men supposed to be doing this, you know, doing the dishes for me, open the door for me, and then he shared the housework, and then he was not that way. Japanese.
Yeah.
I said, what's wrong with you? But so we had a lot of conflict. We came to near divorce, but. We both reconciled, and we learned we have to be patient with each other. You have to forgive others' faults. That's how we our marriage survived.
Yeah.
Ours became a near divorce because my expectation was so high.
Expectations ruin everything.
Yes.
One of the main topics I was hearing throughout this is so much of the pressure that comes from parents. Do you think that this generation of you, maybe the panelists or other people who are growing up now, will change how they treat their children and the expectations that are happening? When do you think that that transition will start to happen if it hasn't started already?
Too fast.
Good question.
I think it's starting already. Yeah, because of the westernizations. Traditionally, it's really a family thing, and marriage is still marriage between two families. That's how our ceremony goes. So still there is a strong family tie, but at the same time, you know, compared to when I was going to college, more and more women going to 4-year college and getting higher education and then working before getting married. And I think older generation was you couldn't leave house for college, but nowadays, you know, women also goes to Tokyo or bigger cities. So because of that, they leave from parents, whereas like 80s, 70s, if you are a daughter, you shouldn't leave home before you get married. Women are going from home to home. That's, you know, attached to the house. So I think it's changing, and then like my niece is actually engaged too, and her mom is saying like, oh, because my niece was looking up my sister-in-law who was the full-time super housewife, you know, it's like 6 to 8 she works doing all the housework, and my niece wanted to be like mom, so she's getting married, but mom was like, no, that's not the only way, you know. So for my sister-in-law, she feels I'm single and doing my thing, and she was home doing all the supportive housework. So she feels her daughter doing, you know, getting married and becoming like her is a little bit kind of disappointment. At the same time, it's happy. So I think everybody is trying to be super, and you are good mom, but I feel like you are not doing work. And if you are doing working career woman, we feel like I'm not getting married or I'm not working, you know, which is like you said, it's impossible to do both. But so we have to reconcile. But
so what kind of advice mainly for Megumi-san? And then also, there are some Japanese ladies here who have to go back to Japan and then face the reality. I know it's, you know, we still feel America is a country of dream, you know, opportunity. So we have here more freedom to choose. But some of them who came from Japan, and then Megumi-san has to go back to Japan. And then, so what kind of advice would you give to her, you know, when she's still having an identity crisis about herself?
When I am in America, I feel so free,
oh, okay, I can enjoy my single life. Then there are many choices, and American women are more independent, so I should be more independent. But when I go back to Japan, なんか suddenly depressed. Oh, my mom and my neighbors, and then I want to say that in Japanese fashion magazine, they have a fashion magazine for around 30, around 40, and mothers that separate. So they recommend we wear certain clothes based on age, on the status. So mother should take this wear, like that. So なんか when I am in Japan, it's very difficult to enjoy my life.
Can you move?
Yeah. I should.
All the Japanese women come to America.
Or in some Japanese attractive around 40 women are left over in Japan. So American guy come to Japan is okay too.
I know Japanese government is really welcoming now the foreign workers.
Yeah.
That's the advice I was going to give you as well, is travel, you know, see what's going on in other countries, travel. That's my advice to you. See the expectation in other countries.
Yeah.
And honestly, I agree with Sharon when she told you before. I think that Japanese women are getting pickier. Good for you.
Picky.
You know?
Yes,
Instead
yes.
of accepting a society where you have a role already written for you, make your own role.
So I have a date with some men, but I couldn't fall in love. I joined matchmaking party, but I couldn't fall in love. So I'm picky. But the many women settle for a man to get married.
Settle with
So. But I should settle for a man or wait right person. That's the question for me. And
if somebody said, okay, this man is good, I brought this good man, you should settle. Are you gonna do it?
どういうこと？誰かがセットアップしてくれて、
セットアップしてすごい
いい人を
連れてきて、
だけど自分が嫌だったらダメでしょ？
ダメ。
So even I said you should, you won't. And you say you can, but you don't want to.
So I don't want to.
That's right.
So
you don't want to.
I don't want to.
It's important to listen to that.
Yeah.
When you talk about your priorities. It's important to be honest with yourself about what your priorities are and continue with that. But I was going to say, my advice made the film. So freeze your eggs.
I asked my OB-GYN, can I freezing my egg? She said it's too late. 38 years old.
It's not too late.
You should come to America and
come here and freeze your eggs and then go back and date an expat who lives in Japan. Aren't there Americans living in Japan? There are tons of them. Western Europeans or whatever. Yeah. Maybe you should explore that community.
I want to.
And then you can do your thing without judgment, but you can still be living in your home.
Yes. Still living in my home.
Yeah.
I should
Any
move.
other advice to
I didn't hear from you what your idea of marriage is.
What's
your idea of marriage? I do have a reason why I'm asking this. It's because I believe that everyone's idea of marriage is different. And my personal belief of marriage, I believe it's a commitment. It's a decision that you're going to be committed to that person, because I believe people fall in and out of love with each other. And it's basically a commitment saying, hey, I'm going to take care of you and you're going to take care of me. And I think people don't value that because romance, and once the romance kind of dissipates, even if it's just temporarily, they have endless amounts of options. You go on your phone, you have messages, you have, even if it's through social media on Facebook, or if you're actually on dating apps like Tinder. So you have a massive amount of options that the second that romance is gone, all of a sudden other people that are messaging you in your life
all of a sudden become these options. So therefore, people just can't stay committed. I think it's because the people lose the idea that marriage is a commitment that you're going to take care of each other. People really don't respect that.
だから結婚っていう話にとってはコミットメントだけど、だからロマンチックだけじゃないの。でもあなたにとってはどういう結婚っていうのはどういうことなんだ、どういうイメージなのか結婚。
Let's listen to one more person that male opinion.
I really liked the saying that there is everything is a choice. Yeah, what you're gonna choose is a very important. What is the most important thing for you? And I don't want to lose that kind of feelings. I don't want to sacrifice that kind of feelings. And it's just for me, it's married. I was married in Japan and divorced, but still I feel happy over that, and she's still happy too, and I'm happy about it. And everything is because we choose the life like that. And so in the future, maybe I'm gonna marry. I'm not sure. But everything is my choice, and everything is the moment right now. It's gonna change in my, the think or thoughts. Maybe 1 year later, I don't wanna marry to anyone. But maybe after that, I again wanna marry somebody. But everything, every time is a choice. So what you want, and it's it depends on you.
Man has much time, but women always. That's the difficult.
But at the same time, choice has a consequence too. You have to be responsible for your choice too.
Okay.
Anybody wants to give Megumi-san advice?
I think.
Just moving.
Travel.
Travel.
Just travel.
Just travel. Yeah, travel.
Yeah. Not being married is not
Teach
a
English?
bad thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
And I think we shouldn't portray marriage as something that is ideal, and that's the expectations are so high as well. But the idea that a marriage is something that is totally easy is wrong. And I think to our children we need to say, it's a fight. It's an everyday fight. It's a garden that you have to work on. And that's the idea that we need to tell our young women is that don't believe it's an easy choice. As you said, you make a choice, you live with that choice. When it doesn't work for you, you make another choice. But it's a false idea to tell young women, marriage is going to be, everything is fine for you. No, nothing is going to be fine. It's everyday. I mean, that's what you mentioned, the children, but that's your choice. So, yeah.
Choice. Yeah, choice.
I think you make only yourself happy. So don't be hurry and then just relax and enjoy single life now.
Okay.
Then somebody comes naturally.
Okay. Don't expect.
You can't force somebody to marry you. You can't force something to happen, right? So while you're waiting, I think you should do your best. That whatever you are doing, whatever you are placed, wherever you are placed, you should be doing your best. Then something will happen.
Something happen. Okay.
You can't force, I don't think.
Thank you.
Like Sharon said that in the movie, she said she worked very hard for it. So I think it will not. It's just there. It will not come to you. You really have to work hard for it.
Work harder to get them married.
If you want to.
Or just go to internet.
Yeah, really hard.
I remember, I've been here along all my families back in Japan, and you get lonely once in a while, right? And then I remember when I was studying at Cal State Long Beach, and I had other faculty, and I think all of them are married, and I was talking to them, and then I said, yeah, but once in a while I feel really lonely being here. And then one of the colleagues, she said, I'm married, but I do feel very lonely as well.
That's true.
And then that was a very good
kind of comment because I feel lonely because I'm alone. I don't have any family or any partner. But then she who is married and have little kids said, yeah, but I do feel very lonely too. And so that means marriage doesn't solve everything, you know.
It just creates new things.
It's true.
Good point.
Yeah, like Takayo Fisher san said in the movie, you have to choose to be happy with yourself. Nobody men can't make you happy, marriage can't make you happy, it's you.
Okay, yeah.
Or anybody,
in terms of like relationships, and I don't know if this applies to marriage, but my mom, she kind of gave me this advice. It's like you don't really, when you're not thinking about marriage or anything, you're not really thinking about it, that's when it comes to you.
Yes.
Like because when you're so focused on it and you're constantly thinking about it, you're like, why is it happening? But it's only when you don't that it just comes naturally. And so it's funny, I'm a triplet. She didn't think she was gonna have triplets or children at all. The doctors told her she wasn't gonna have kids. And then she was trying for 9 years. And then she wasn't thinking about it, and all of a sudden she got pregnant. So I guess that's my advice. Like a lot of women are trying so hard to find marriage or find that perfect someone, but just focus on you, I guess, and do the best you can.
Okay.
And then it just comes.
So I give up.
Yeah.
She's not saying give up. Just don't think about it. Don't go that extreme.
I would like to say that for me, life is only like once you live your own life, and I mean, for me, the most important thing is to be yourself. Like make yourself happy is the most important thing in your life. And I don't think like age is really a problem. If you think it's a problem, just find some guys they don't think that's a problem. They are not loving like your parents or this kind of superficial things. They love your soul and love your personality. I think that's more important.
Okay, thank you. このラストクエスチョンはDo you have any advice to students? But students advice. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have like 3 life examples, not mine, but like my mom, she was like a senior in college when this happened, I think, or anyway, and she was like telling her college roommate, because she had gone out with guys and stuff, and she was like, oh, I'm so done with guys, like I'm gonna be my own like independent woman, and she just found like that she can be independent and doesn't need like a boyfriend. And then right after that is when she met my dad. Yeah, I grew that summer. And then like also my brother, he's not married, he's like 17, but he had this girlfriend for like a couple months, like summer before his freshman year in high school. And then they broke up like a couple months later, and he realized like I need to be okay with myself, like to be by myself, like because his friends were kind of like influencing him or like kind of making him feel like he needed to have a girlfriend or he needed to like somebody, and he was like, no, I just need some time for myself. And then like the whole next year he didn't concentrate on that. This girl confessed to him and he said, sorry, I'm not ready for that, like I'm just concentrating on myself. And then that next summer he and this girl met again, and she was in Korea at the time when they met the previous year. But then that time he found out that she was going to be staying in America for the rest of her high school. And then shortly after that, they became a couple, and they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary like a month ago. So like, yeah, I think it is like a huge thing to really like be okay with being by yourself and like finding happiness for yourself first. Then yeah, that person will just kind of come into your life.
Yeah, don't chase. Just relax and enjoy yourself now. If it means to come, it will come. Okay, anybody? Okay, then thank you very much for your time. ありがとうございました。
Obrigado.
Thank you so much.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not married. I haven't been married ever. I was engaged once, but.
So your mom, like, get divorced?
Well, she's married.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. She wanted to see a ring, so I just.
I said that's very important for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
She's from a Panther newspaper, the school newspaper. She wants
Hi, I'm Claire. So I just had a few questions if you wouldn't mind. Okay. So, how old were you when you started acting?
When I started acting?
Yeah.
When I was 10 years old, yeah. 10 years old, I started my entertainment debut.
And then, was it hard to film this movie and talk about this? Yeah. Was it difficult for you? Since it was personal?
Difficult. I easy to open my mind because all of the American people listen to me very well and they are so kind. So naturally I talked about myself. I could. So and at first the movie theme was just going for abroad. But little by little, I talk about myself, about my problem. Then it's changed. The theme was changed to women's problem around 40 women. So,
yeah. So thank you. And then, what do you hope that students learned from seeing your film and then from this discussion?
So I think American women are more independent than Japanese, but still Japan, and not only Japan, China, Korea, they are suffering under the pressure of society and family. So I hope to know that to American people. So yeah, we are living. We have to traditional role in our country.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you. So you will newspaper? I want to read if I can read that.
Yeah, it'll be online.
Online video, right?
Yeah.
About the movie, I thought the movie was very interesting. I'm personally from Japan, but I went to an international school. I had a very different family from a typical Japanese culture. So I grew up not having the pressure for marriage, kids, anything. But looking at this movie, I did realize that the country that I live in is having pressure among Japanese people. They have all the pressure about getting married, continuing their family, having kids and all of that. And this documentary made me kind of show what my life would be if I did go to a Japanese school, was a Japanese family, and actually moved here. And that showed how, in a way, I am very lucky because I do not have that pressure, and I do have this very big experience of being able to, live in America, go to school here, meet a lot of Americans and not just Japanese people. So yeah, the movie or the documentary itself was a very interesting thing. It made me realize a lot of things and a lot of possibilities for the future. So thank you.